So we're fetching products here on our shop page. And what about manage products now? The good thing is, in this app, we technically can't really get to manage products without having been to the shop page first. Since we fetch our products here, and we then store them in items in our products class here, when we reach manage products, which uses the same items, we're guaranteed to have products. So we don't really need to fetch products when we reach this page, though of course theoretically you could do that. Here on the user products page, you could turn this into a stateful widget as well, and then also use did change dependencies here or the init state hack to load products here as well. But as I said, I don't need that here. But there is one other thing which we could add here. It would be nice to have a pull to refresh logic here, where we can pull the screen down to fetch the latest set of products or the latest values from the web. And such a pull to refresh pattern is relatively easy to implement in Flutter. All you have to do is you have to go to the widget where you want to have that pattern, then to your body there in the scaffold, and then here in this case around the padding, you wrap this with a new widget. And that new widget here is a refresh indicator, another widget that's built into Flutter. The refresh indicator takes a child around which you wrap it, and then you need to define an onRefresh function. So this takes a function which gets no arguments, but which has to return a future, and that's important. And this function has to return a future so that the refresh indicator widget knows when you're done fetching data, because it will show a spinner automatically in the meantime, and it needs to know when to dismiss this. So here you can either use a named function and point at that, and actually I'll do that, or use an anonymous function. But here I'll use a named function, which has to return a future which yields nothing in the end. That's important. And I'll turn this into a private function, which is only available inside of this class. And I'll name this refresh products. The name is totally up to you, of course. And in there, you now have to return a future. Now that can be done by turning it into an async function. Then you learned this will always return a future. But of course, I want to return a meaningful future that really does something. And for that, we can use provider, for which you need to have the provider package imported, of, and then connect it to products, of context, and then also call fetch and set products, of course. Now, to have the context here, since I'm not in a state class here, I don't have it available everywhere. So here I need to now get this as an input, as an argument here in the refresh products. So now here I can call fetch and set products, and then we simply await for this to finish, and therefore this overall method will only be done once this is done, and only then this future, which is automatically returned, will resolve. And with that, we're fetching our new products here. So now down there, we could now point at refresh, products was the name, but actually, since I need my context there, I need to pass that in, and therefore I will wrap this in an anonymous function, which reference is now stored in onRefresh, and inside of that anonymous function, I return a call to refresh products where I can now forward the context I'm getting here in the build method automatically. Now, one additional note about the way we're fetching our products here, we should actually add listen false here in the refresh products method to ensure that this method, which we're calling on our provider, is being called, but we're not setting up a listener here, because we don't really want to listen to updates in products here in this method. We just want to trigger the fetch and set products method. Therefore, I'm calling it here, and I'm adding listen false here to avoid any problems with that. This is something we didn't add thus far, but something you should add in your code in this refresh products method to avoid unnecessary widget rebuilds. That should already be everything. If I save this, here our products are lost because due to this hot reload, our state gets cleared. But that's good actually, because that allows me to demonstrate that fetching. Here I can now pull down, and you see that indicator appear here. And if you pull down long enough or far enough, you see that starts loading, and as soon as the data is there, that spinner disappears. So that's the refresh indicator and that pull to refresh pattern, which as you see is pretty easy to implement.